The Neolithic Age. The Neolithic period, the age of polished implements, may be dated tentatively in England as occupying the period from around 2300 BC to about 1900 BC. The probable time of the final separation of this country from the continent by the submergence of the land which formerly united them was about 6500 BC. This relative depression of the land and encroachment of the sea thus began in Mesolithic times, and it went on right through the Neolithic period. If we regard the Paleolithic period as having extended from about 540,000 BC to 12,000 BC, and the Mesolithic period from 12,000 BC to 2300 BC, we get the lengths of the Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic periods as covering 528,000, 9,700 and 400 years respectively. In point of fact, it is difficult to decide what we really mean by the Neolithic period, because so many implements, which are highly finished stone tools and weapons, survived into the Bronze Age, or did not come into use until bronze had been introduced into Britain. This is particularly noticeable with flint arrowheads, which imitate in shape the bronze article, which at the time would be rarer and more precious. The implements called Neolithic, in the wide sense, include polished stone axes, some of them perforated, leaf-shaped arrowheads, polished flint knives, flint daggers, and flint sickles. In addition to flint, hard stones in wide variety were used in the manufacture of the implements. No earlier period provides anything so elaborate as characteristic Neolithic implements. The highly finished ground and polished tool or weapon is extremely easily recognised. One well-known type of implement is called a celt, from a supposed Low Latin word celtis, an axe. This has nothing to do with the Celtic or Celtic race. The celt is an axe head with a cutting edge at the broader end, the narrower end having been thrust into a split stick used as a haft. Some of the finest flint implements of the period have been found in Denmark. This part of Europe was geographically suited for long, undisturbed occupation, and therefore excellently adapted for the full development of any industry. In addition to the highly polished implements of Neolithic times, the folk of this period produced beautifully shaped, finely flaked tools. Once again, then, typology is important, for the shapes of such implements are characteristic. The best way to become familiar with them is to see a good series of one of the museums. They are in marked contrast with the heavy, bulky hand axes of Paleolithic times. The Neolithic period provides us with surprising art in the portrait busts built in plaster upon human skulls, found at Jericho in Israel in 1953. These perhaps date back to 5000 BC, long before the Neolithic period began in this country. The Neolithic period included the time when man began to build the great stone monuments, the best known of which is Stonehenge. But the latest of them, and this actually includes Stonehenge, belong to the transition in time between the Neolithic period and the Bronze Age. To this transitional time, the names of the Chalcolithic period and the Eneolithic period have been given. The first syllables of these words mean copper, from the Greek chalkos, and brassy, from the Latin aeneos. The second syllable is of course our old friend stone.